Now, with the internet, two or three things have happened. One, people's attention spans have shortened, and people, frankly, are not reading that much. They go to the net, they see some headline, and they move on. So, you have very bite-sized information. You don't have a coherent kind of overview of the world, of what's going on. The second thing for newspapers that's happened, as I see it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is I see the business model in crisis, if not dead. For some it is dead. Newspapers, great newspapers have closed down in places like Europe. I'm sure in the US too. And if they haven't closed down, they are being, even great names like Washington Post are being bought out by Jeff Bezos at a fraction of a price that they once commanded. And that's because you have
that
Google.
Sale price was amazingly low. It was kind of shocking.
So the business, because now people advertise on Google. So the business model, the community model is gone. And so...
Well, I disagree with when you say the word community. I believe there's still a good market for community newspapers that have an emotional connection with their community.
I see.
Our newspaper gets to report on the people, and so, an example, on Thursday we'll publish a special edition that has the names of everybody who's on football and volleyball teams this fall, and on cross-country running teams and tennis teams. So we've got a connection there with all of those kids who are competing on those high school teams, and then we also have a connection with the parents and grandparents and everything. So we have kind of a personal, emotional connection with our community. The large newspapers that have failed don't always have that. They would have to rely on readers being interested in things that didn't touch them personally, like maybe the local professional football team, or some civic issues that might matter to people. But those are the newspapers that have failed, and then if the recession, I believe, complicated things a lot. It exposed newspapers that had bad debt structures, and so if they had declining grip on their readers and then debt problems, then it really was a disaster for them. But you see investors nowadays purchasing newspapers, and how does your explanation address the fact that Warren Buffett has purchased all the newspapers, and that it's the owner of Yahoo, right, that bought the Post, or was it Google?
No, it's
I think
the
Amazon.
owner of Amazon.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, people are purchasing newspapers and investing in them because they do see them as still being profitable in the right markets. The big metro papers, I think, are hurting really bad. But if you measure readership, the readership of the Kearney Hub has never been better.
And what is it right now?
When I came to work here 22 years ago, our circulation was 13,000. Today it's 10,000 paid circulation and 10,000 online readers.
So per month or per day?
Per day.
Per day, 13,000.
Now, some of that 10,000 online is undoubtedly, people who are also subscribing to the print product, but I don't think all of it is.
What's the population of Kearney?
Population is 32,000.
Yeah, that's extraordinary.
But, we print news that's meaningful to people. Saturdays, we print photos and little stories about the people who have gotten engaged for marriage and the people who have married or that have wedding anniversaries. Those are people that you see at the store and who might be your friend on the parent-teacher organization. I mean, it's a community that still has a connection, and the newspaper can be the concrete that holds that community together.
Very interesting. And that's a great analogy, because that is what a good paper was. And people forget, but Benjamin Franklin was a newspaper man, so was Thomas Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
And so was Gandhi. He published 2 newspapers.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
He published 2, not 1. I don't know how he found the time.
Uh-huh.
He was a ridiculous hard worker.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the great public figures of human history have been newspapermen, including Churchill, who was on the other side of the divide as Gandhi, but he was, you know, a columnist, a writer, and a commentator for years.
Mm-hmm.
So the concrete that holds society together is a great analogy.
I didn't get to dig into it very much, but I was scratching my head when I saw some of the topics that were going to be explored in the articles, and I can't wait to read more of it.
What were the topics?
Oh man, I can't remember. What I did was I scanned over those, and then I found something. I think it was the mission statement or whatever, and then on that page I saw, I think, your photo, and explained that you're crossing the U.S. trying to get a feel for what's on people's minds. So,
yeah. And he's been a great education to me, because no, seriously, because he's an American, I'm not, so he can give me, and he has roots here, so he can give me and explain me, you know, how corn, you know, is grown, and how, you know, cattle are raised.
And not to point. We don't point in the.
Not to point, which is.
He's been pointing a lot, and I'm trying to get him to stop doing that. Yeah.
It's. I'm told it's very bad manners, and you know, this is something they never tell you in Oxford, because you're always pointing at each other in the union debating chamber.
when I knew that you were going to stop, I decided I needed to ask you this question. Have you seen the new Vonage commercial?
No.
Okay, this man looks like a world traveler.
Yeah.
And he's like wearing some packs and stuff on his body, and he's got roughed up hair like he hasn't had a shower. Looks kind of like your partner. But he's walking through a neighborhood, and he's encountering people from many different ethnic backgrounds, you know, and he's trying to tell them about, you know, now you can get long distance to 60 different countries. And so he walks up to people, like he says something in Spanish, and they go, "See," they ask him in their language, you know, what can we call Mexico? And he goes, "See," and then eventually he walks up to somebody from India, and asks if they can call India, and he says yes, and I don't know what the word is that he uses, but the expression is what I'm asking you about, because his expression is like this, like that. Is that yes?
Yeah, I mean, Indians tend to bob their head. So
well,
that one can mean yes, and this can mean no too. This head bobbing is a particularly Indian trait.
Because I want you to watch that commercial closely if you get to see it, because I'm convinced that he's getting it wrong. I'm thinking that he's saying no by his head motion. So okay, so. It's very difficult for Americans to do the bobbing. Have you ever tried it?
He'd be good at it.